about your upbringing. Give us a little testimony about how you came to know Jesus Christ.
Well, that's an hour answer, and literally, I take a prison. I do a lot of illustrated sermons. Last night, or yesterday morning, I preached in Wise, Virginia, a message called "Boot the Root," and I brought out these enormous roots that barely fit in the back of my truck. And I talked about the difference in a little root and then visually this size. And I had a flower pot with dirt in it, and so I like to do visual things. But we do a sermon called "The Unforgiveness Penitentiary." I bring a $5,000 6 by 6 by 18 foot 3-cell prison and put it on stages, and I tell my story. And it takes about 45 to 50 minutes, but I'll give you the 4-minute version. I was born to a mentally ill woman in Indiana, and she had 2 very severe mental illnesses and was borderline on a third. And she didn't want me. She was on her way to get an illegal at that time abortion in 1963. Glenola Sue Mills was her name. And her sister, Zelphia Madonna Phillips. Now, those are some Indiana corn-fed names right there, I can tell you. She talked her out of it and said, let the kid be born. Let's see what it might become. But she didn't want me. She told me herself that she'd put me in the attic when I was a baby if I cried, and I'm 2 years old. And she said, if you don't quit crying, the monster's going to get you. And I think she put me under the tub and wasn't sure she was going to bring me up at times. But anyway, when I was 3, with a judge's signature in 1967, my mother became my aunt. She gave me away to my first cousin. So my first cousin became my dad. My aunt became my grandmother, and my grandparents became my great-grandparents. That's a lot for a 3-year-old to process. It's probably why I flunked a lot of my math classes. I don't even understand my family tree. But anyway, so 3 to 15, great life. My dad did great things. He put a basketball goal in concrete when I was 12 years old. That changed my life. He was not athletic, but he just gave me something to do, and I played for hours and hours and hours a day. And he gave me a canoe when I was 15. Got a green bike when I was 13. But then when I was 15, he got mugged in a place he probably shouldn't have been in Tampa, Florida, some type of club. I'm not sure all the details. But they rolled him, stole $1,000. They stole his car. He never got it back, never got the money back. Beat him with rocks. He had 1,000 fire ant bites on him. And it changed everything. It changed his personality. It changed his facial features. It changed everything. And it wasn't long after that he kicked my mom out. Now, my adopted mom, who I call mom to this day. And so when sin comes into a place, the way of the transgressor is hard, and our life was hard. And I don't want to throw him under the bus because he rescued me. He did a lot of phenomenal things for me. But then sin kind of got in. And so I lived with a lot of families, including the one I mentioned in our pre-interview. I lived with the Woods and the Ammons and the Heidels and the Grindles and different folks. McCatherines would take me in. Went to 4 high schools in 4 states in 4 years. And when I get to this point, I say, I didn't know Jesus. I couldn't spell Jesus. I live for one thing and one thing only. And then I say, see if you can pick me out of my senior high school picture. Take your time. I've gained some weight. And then I throw a picture of the screen up. And I'm the only pale man on there. I'm in an inner city school, and all of my teammates are African American. I stand out like the white shadow is what they used to call me, Oreo. And I said, I don't care what you call me, just throw me the ball. They were phenomenal players. When I got there, it was halfway through my junior year. So I played the ball in Lincoln, Missouri, and we had 42 kids in my entire public school class in the Ozarks. Got 500 kids K through 12 under the same roof.
Good gracious.
We had no integration because there was nothing to integrate.
Right.
And then I moved to Tampa, Florida, my sophomore year in the summer. And I never recommend moving a kid in the summer because they don't have any friends. And so we had 3 channels on television because I'm 100 years old. I mean, I was bored out of my mind. We had 3,300 kids, grades 10, 11, and 12. They didn't even have a freshman class. 10, 11, and 12, 3,300 kids, Chamberlain High School. And so every day we lived in this crummy little above the garage apartment. And I just take my basketball and go to the park play with all the brothers and the Hispanic guys, and that's what really made me a ball player. So I played ball at Chamberlain High School. Then I moved to Decatur, Alabama, Roll Tide, and I played basketball my sophomore, half of my junior year. Okay, and some of my sophomore year, half my junior year, and I moved to Columbus, Georgia. I didn't know anything about it. My dad was transferred or got another job. We just raced away from problems, and I drove in from Decatur, and I threw the keys on the table of the car I had borrowed to get there. I was poor, man. I mean, I had 2 pairs of pants. I didn't have a vehicle, no way to go to college, nothing. And I said, "Where's the school?" They told me. I walked to the school, found the gym, walked in. Coach blew the whistle and says, "Can I help you, son?" I said, "Yeah, I just literally moved here 15 minutes ago from Decatur, Alabama. I was wondering if I could try for the basketball team." He said, "Son, we've already picked our team. We had a game Friday night. I'm sorry." I said, "Well, that's just how my life's going. Thank you anyway. See you around." I'm walking out. He goes, "Hey, come back here, kid." And he threw me a ball. He said, "Go down to that practice goal and shoot 10 free throws." So I went down in my street clothes, and I guess an anointing came on me or something, because I hit 10 out of 10. And when I hit that 10th shot, Coach Zimmerman said, "Son, I found a jersey. I just found a jersey for you." And by the end of the season, I was starting the last several games, much to the chagrin of the senior that I was replacing. But so then I played my senior year there. But what changed my life was, after that, go down there and shoot 10 free throws. I went to math class at 7:30, and there is I've got his pictures all over the place. There's a man there that had a crew cut. His clothes were weird to me. His shoes had a party that his pants didn't get the invitation to attend. I mean, now that's fashionable. But he would say crazy things like, "You walk out that second story window, you think you're going to fly? You go to Panama City, car hits a tree going to move." And I'm like, "Would you just let me flunk math instead of hybrid math, Southern philosophy? What are you talking about?" So, I mean, I'm telling you, I was so lost. You can't imagine this because you're young. We had in our public schools a smoking section for students, sanctioned by the school. Like, kids would go over and go, "What you doing, Billy?" "I got an algebra test. See you in a minute." And that was sanctioned. I went to my high school prom. I went to my own senior prom with a 29-year-old teacher in that school. That's weird. I mean, who does that? Weirdos and lost people. She was fine, but still, that's a weird thing to do. So one day I was having a bad day. I had a lot of bad days. If we did have food, sometimes the food would fly across the table into the wall and crash the dish in 1,000 pieces. And I was having a particularly bad day. And I saw this math teacher sitting in the breezeway. I sat down beside him and I said, "Mr. Reader, I got to ask you a question." I checked with the office. You don't have lunch duty. You have so much tenure here, you'll never have lunch duty again. You don't eat. You just sit out here and look at us, and you're starting to creep me out. What in the world are you doing out here every day looking at us? And the answer that he gave me, that one sentence answer, is what really has opened up every door, including this podcast. He said, "I've been waiting on you." Wow. And when he said that, I started to cry. People were looking at me. I'm like, "It's allergies. Keep on moving." And I said, "I hate my life. I hate the people who live in my house. My dad kicked my mom out. 1 week later, a woman moved into our house that was not much older than me. She had 2 kids from 2 dads. And I hated everybody. I was so angry." And he said, "Well," I said, "Mr. Reed, I don't have a hope to go to college. I want to go to college. It's not for everybody, but I want to go. I don't have a hope." He said, "Well, I know where you live." He said, "Walk to my house on Saturday morning, and I'll carry you to Opelika, Alabama, and you can get a job on my farm." So things were looking up. So this is a long answer to your question. So,
no, you're good. You're good. Take time.
I went to the farm, and I worked that Saturday like a Hebrew slave. He gave me a turkey bologna sandwich, an RC Cola, faded banana, and a $10 bill.
You said faded banana?
Faded banana. And that was $10 more than I had before. So I took that $10 with my buddy, who was a football player, down the street, and we got fake IDs and snuck into a nightclub, to a disco. Disco is a thing that used to exist on the earth. You can Google it later. And so that's what we did. We went into the nightclub, and I did that for about 4 weeks. And then I was getting out of the step-side Chevrolet pickup truck one day, and Mr. Reader said, he was a very quiet man. We had, 35-minute drive, and a lot of times we didn't say a word. He said, now, Joe, if you walk back up here tomorrow, I'll carry you to church. They talking out about my carry to church. And I said, well, Mr. Reader, I appreciate that, but I'm not very religious, and I don't want to disrespect you. I thank you, but I think I'll pass. And he cheated. He cheated. This is the ultimate cheat. He said, Joe, if you'll come back up here and go to church, Patricia will make you homemade fried chicken, butter beans, mashed potatoes, and gravy, banana pudding so good you want to slap somebody. I said, what kind of religion are you, Mr. Reader? I mean, I can be Nazarene for banana pudding. I can be Baptist for butter beans, Catholic for cornbread, whatever you got. Because I was a hungry kid, man. I was hungry. I show a picture at this point in my story of me on the front page of the Columbus Ledger-Inquirer, and I looked like I had anorexia. And it wasn't because I was in shape. I didn't have calories. And so I went up there. It was a weird church. It was a Pentecostal church. I've never been anything like that. Men and women were standing on stage wearing the same dress, and they were all waving at me with their eyes closed, and they're friendly people. I didn't know any of them. I mean, I didn't know anything was going on. I was just keeping my mind on the prize, cornbread and chicken. And but there was an invisible, eternal presence in that room that I could not escape. So we rocked on with that about four weeks during the summer after my senior year. And I wish I could say I came to know the Lord in a beautiful church like Multiply Church or the Refuge or one of these churches. I was on the Smuggler's Inn dance floor, nightclub dance floor, dancing with a married lady. And it was packed. And I was, I thought I was cool. I was probably, dancing like a typical white kid, I thought I was cool. But I heard a voice that was louder than Rick James, louder than Kool and the Gang. It was inside my mind and my heart and my soul and my spirit. And the voice simply said, Joe, I love you. And I got something better for you than this. Man. And I stopped dancing and started crying. Now, some people cry cute. Pastor, that was so sweet. When I cry, you can sell tickets. It's an event. You put up crime scene tape. It's a shoulder shaking, and I started doing that. And the Fort Benning guys, I couldn't hear because the music was so loud. They were pointing and saying, he's drunk. I could read their lips. I wasn't drunk. I hadn't had anything to drink. I was too poor to be drunk. But that night, I heard the voice of God. And 40 years and 7 months ago, I walked out of a dark nightclub, and I have been walking in the light ever since without a single regret. That's the long story. That's the short story of the long answer.